Welcome to the Roniel and DaRon podcast show. I'm DaRon.
And I'm Roniel.
The DOD went through and for years has been trying to get their contractors to shore up their security because a lot of the penetrations that are occurring, a lot of the incursions that are occurring right now in the DOD are coming through two major sources: civilian government agencies, and then of course, DoD partners, but also through things like contractors. So I don't need to break into the U.S. Missile Defense Agency. I just need to break into unicorn company here that happens to be a contractor on that. So the DoD went through and they pushed out these new standards, CMMC. And when they pushed those out, I sat there and said, those won't stand, such as they were. And I stand by that. And it's been proven because now the Senate is demanding that the DOD revise it, heavily revise it. The reason being, small businesses simply can't afford it. Now, here's one of the big jokes about contracting is for years, it was just a few major companies making huge amounts of money. But the federal government started pushing hard, saying you, different agencies, have to award contracts to so many small businesses and disadvantaged businesses, woman-owned, hub-zone, veteran-owned, disabled veterans, so on and so forth, right? Those small organizations don't have what it takes to meet CMMC. Now, CMMC goes through and it's supposed to have your network and all your equipment as a contractor secured, and it gets audited and all this other stuff. But the issue there is, number one, the program is not properly in place. They don't have a good solid on-ramp for auditors. So how you even get an auditor is still incredibly up in the air. How much auditors make you pay? And then who pays it? Well, the answer, of course, is the contract company, right? Well, right. If an audit costs you $100,000, can you, as a small business who's just trying to start up, afford that? No. Not even close. And the other thing about government contracting is it typically takes around 6 months before you see a penny of what you're owed. And, after the first 6 months, it starts, yeah, it's surprising, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So now you're saying these small businesses have to float for both 6 months, but also they have to float $100,000 or more dollars to have their audit. Well, the DOD sat there and they're like, well, but they should have been charging us for this audit that they're having. Okay, yes, we could argue that they should build that into their pricing. But most companies aren't, because what it comes down to so oftentimes is lowest bidder. So if I build that pricing in, then I cost more than you. You didn't build the pricing in because you're a bigger small business or a bigger company, period. So you just ate the cost. You're like, well, 100,000, that's nothing. But
right.
But also, how does a small business afford people like you and I? They can't. Right?
No.
And they can't afford good IT staff either. In fact, a lot of small businesses have no real IT staff, or they contract it out. So they're definitely not getting what they need to have. And the truth is, what the government needs to do is stop contracting with these small businesses. Let me rephrase that because people will misunderstand. What the government needs to do is stop having small businesses and contractors, period, have DOD data on contractor systems. If the DOD really wants to take its security seriously, make contractors use DOD systems. Then contractors don't need to have this audit because DOD data never enters the contractor system. Problem solved. And some people might say that sounds too easy, but it is that easy. The only thing the contractor would deal with is invoicing. And at that point, the contractor's just dealing with invoicing how many people are on it. All of the IT is the government's. It's owned by the government, it's managed by the government, it's operated by the government, and or its contract staff, so on and so forth. But since the government has complete control, the government is the one auditing, and all prices, therefore, all costs are incurred by the government. Problem solved, and all of this goes away. Then you don't need CMMC. Then you don't need this complex audit structure and all of this other craziness. And everyone's happy. The government saves a boatload of money and is more secure at the same time. It's that simple. But here's the problem with the big lie. The big lie was that contractors saved money. So to the government, bringing it back in-house is going to cost money. But it won't. Because you, the Roniel startup, is supposedly charging them, that's right, supposedly charging them for that audit. So they're paying for the audit either way. What did they save? Well, they saved in the IT staff to manage it. No, they didn't, because they still paid for it. They paid for it in overhead. They also paid for HR, and they paid for expensive presidents, CEOs, CFOs, and all this other stuff. Not just for one small business, but for a whole bunch of small businesses. And if you've ever been in a small business, I'm going to tell you this, almost all of them, the owners use the business like a cash register.
This is our segment for today. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And I am Roniel.
I am DaRon.
And thank you for watching this episode of the Roniel and DaRon podcast show. We'll see you on the next episode.
Have fun.